Hey guys, so right now I'm kind of just here to tell you guys about my MEPS experience. I've been to MEPS not once, not twice, but 3 times. I will be back a 4th and a 5th eventually. Hopefully, my fingers are crossed that everything goes good, so I'll figure out why I've been so many times. Okay guys, so the first time I went to MEPS was November 20th, 2018, and that was for my ASVAB. I took the ASVAB. And my first experience at MEPS was I really didn't know what to expect. And of course, I looked at other videos and I was like, what do I expect? Like, what am I supposed to do? I showed up. I drove myself. I only live about 10-15 minutes away from MEPS in the first place. There's about like 6 girls. Not even 6. No, there's like 3 or 4 girls. And the rest were all guys in my group. And so then we gave them our 680 form, 680, I think it's our 680, I think it's a 680 for the request of examination form. And we got sent to this room. Half the room was like in phase 1, and at the time I didn't know what phase 1 is. Half the room was ASVAB. And so the funny thing is, we go in and first we do our biometrics because it was like my first time there. So I did my biometrics, my finger, which was my fingerprints, and then I did my picture. And then we were in the room, and like I said, we're 50-50, like we're split. And this kid, he's kind of like all like slouched in his chair, and he's hella big chilling. And this guy, he's like one of the main guys that kind of like, he's a civilian, he's retired Marines. I found that out I found out that he was a retired Marine the last time I went to MEPS because he announced it. And he was like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? He goes, you know what, you need to sit up. He goes, and I'm gonna give you this articles and you need to be able to recite all 3 of them for me. He did come back and he made the guy recite them, and all of us in the back were kind of just like we would hate to be him. But so we're in the back like at 10:30ish. One of the guys from the armies, he's gonna be not our test administrator, but he's the one that's gonna give us our brief about it. He comes in, he goes, we're gonna start here shortly. He goes, but you guys aren't here all day, so you don't get a lunch, but if you go to the USU or the USO, I think it's the USO, pretty sure, someone correct me on that, I'm pretty sure it's the USO. You get free food. He goes, just go down there, get a water, get some like donuts or something. And like all of us were like, haha, yeah, cool. None of us went. Like, we were just like, okay, thank you. But then eventually he came back around like 11:15. He was like, nah guys, I'm like really serious, go get something, it's gonna be a minute until the test examiner comes. So me and the girl that I met, she was really nice. I wish I would have got her phone number or like her contact information, because she was really nice. Like, we were just having full-on conversation. We went and we got something small and we used the bathroom and then came back for our test. It's 12:30 and he goes, okay, we're finally gonna start our brief. So from 10 to 12:30. It wasn't that bad of waiting, to be honest, because like I said, it kind of felt like it flew by because I was talking to the girl the whole time. Took our test 12:30. I was out of there by like 3 o'clock. Then fast forward, I didn't go back to MEPS for my physical until February 11th, which was not too long ago. So I went for my full med physical. So the 10th, I stayed in the hotel. I checked into the hotel. They had the big briefing room that a lot of people talk about, but we didn't have a brief, or at least I didn't think we have a brief, because nobody ever told me I had to be down here at a certain time for a briefing or anything. They gave me like this laminated sheet of paper and they told me to read it. He was like, have you ever been here? I was like, no sir. He goes, okay, read this paper, and then if you have any questions, let me know. The paper pretty much just told us what the brief was. It was what they expected of us, what time curfew is, if you leave, make sure you check in and out on the paper, and what time wake-up call was going to be. It was going to be at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you had to be down there no later than 4:30. I got up to my room. I did notice that I did have a roommate, but she was nowhere to be found. Like, I was there in the room by like 7:30 and I didn't know where my roommate was. So I was just chilling. I would watch TV for a little bit. She came in, talked for a little bit. That was that. I woke up like at 3:45 this time. Got dressed, showered, got dressed, went downstairs. We had breakfast. What I do really recommend, I know a lot of people say not to, definitely use the restroom when you wake up, and definitely eat. I understand if you're like really close on your weight and you don't want to overeat, eat something small, because you probably won't eat again until like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And this is 4:30 in the morning, so you should probably eat something. After that, 4:45 on the dot comes around, the lady comes and she says, okay, all my females line up with your roommate, boys follow behind them, and they ask for our first and last names and what room we stayed in, and then they told us to get on the bus. But I did not take the bus, I drove myself to MEPS. My recruiter said it would probably be better just in case I finished early so I could leave and I didn't have to wait to get a shuttle back to the hotel, because I am so local. So I drove there. I was like, oh, am I gonna miss the bus? Like, I don't know when they get here, but they actually just drove right past me from where I was parked, and I was able to join in line with everybody else. They had it broken down into branches, so it was Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard. I think it went, I'm not 100% positive, but I think it went Marines, Army, Navy. I'm pretty positive. And that day they had a lot of Marines shipping out, like a lot, because I guess they took the people who came from San Diego and the people who came from Riverside, and they were all shipping out together. So what they did was they took all the shippers, pushed them to the front, gave a brief, told them to get in line so they could start processing them through the doors. And then they gave a brief for us. The same guy who yelled at the guy the last time I came, he was doing the briefing, and he was just like, you guys need to be disciplined, you guys need to listen to us. Oh, and there was a guy shipping out wearing sweatpants, and he was like, you need to get on the phone with your recruiter right now. He goes, because you're not getting into MEPS in these sweats. And I was just like, it was so crazy, because I feel like recruiters tell you what you can and cannot wear. At least my recruiter did. So he gave us our briefing. Oh, and in the morning too, before we all split up, our little liaison came out and gave us our name tags with our first, last name, and what we were supposed to be doing that day. Mine said full med. Then we took about like 10 more minutes to get into the actual building. So right then and there, it was probably like, give or take, maybe like 5:45 a.m. roughly. And so we got into the building, did our fingerprint. They told me to go to room 108. Went to room 108. This is where the guy was going to take my blood pressure, and we kind of all sat in this big room because it was also going to be our briefing room. At the start, there was only me, another girl, and then there was probably like a total of 6 in the beginning. So I come in the room, I'm the second person to enter the room because the Air Force was the first line to go in, and I was second in that line. He comes and he's like, okay, what's your natural hair and eye color? And I was like, brown and brown, sir. And he goes, okay. And then he does my blood pressure, and he goes, okay, take a really deep breath, I'm gonna take it one more time. So I was a little nervous, so he took it one more time. My blood pressure was totally fine. We go in, we're waiting, because there's other people who got sent to a room before, because there was a lot of people who were doing ASVAB and full med the same day, but they had to take the ASVAB first portion, but they still had to be there for the briefing, so we couldn't start the brief until all those people were in the room as well. So we're just about to start the brief, and someone goes, I need to go to the bathroom. So they let him go to the bathroom because there were still people in the other room, and we couldn't start the testing. We finally get to the last person. I need to go to the bathroom. The same guy again. So the Captain A let him go. And we're in the middle of the speech. Another guy raises his hand. Sir, can I go to the bathroom? He's like, no. He goes, I have to get through this PowerPoint, all 36 slides. He goes, word for word. No, you have to hold it now. And we were kind of running behind schedule already, he said, because it was like 7:30 and he was still giving the brief, and he was supposed to be done around like 7-ish, but it was just a long processing. So after Captain A gave his whole speech, he had the medical assistants, I think that's what they are, that's what I'm gonna call them. The medical assistants came in, they did another medical briefing, kind of broke down everything that they were gonna do today through medical. And then they also gave us a little survey, and it was like one of those surveys that asks you, have you felt down within the couple of days? Have you been extremely excited or like depressed the last week or 2 weeks, and you have to fill it out. Obviously hit no for everything. I mean, even if you have, like, just hit no. I'm not lying, but no, because then they're gonna ask you a lot of questions about it. It's really not worth it. Then we followed through, and they gave us these little tubes, and he was like, don't drop them, your needles are in them. And everyone was like, oh my god, okay. And he goes, no, I'm just messing with you guys. He goes, this is for the breathalyzer. He goes, and guys, don't make eye contact with me either when they give it. And so the first guy that goes up there, he literally make eye contacts with the guy while he's like doing the breathalyzer, and he goes, what did I tell you? Like, they were all joking about it. And then so we took the breathalyzer test. That's the first test we took. Obviously mine said 0.0, so we throw our tube away, and then they give you your file, and then you go down to medical. You go down the hall to medical, and I think the first thing they asked me was, are you able to provide a urine sample right now? And I was like, yes ma'am. And so they had me sit against the wall, like there was chairs with the other girl who was from the Air Force as well, and we were waiting, and they were like, actually she's kind of busy right now, can you give me your blood? And I was like, okay. So they did my blood. The guy was super cool, super chill. We started talking about shoes. Mind you, I do work at Foot Locker, so like it was a casual conversation for us. When he put the needle in, I didn't feel anything. Like, that was the first time, because usually people really struggle finding my veins, but he was super chill. Boom, done. A couple seconds, fill the tube up. He took it, he made sure you didn't feel nauseous, or if you needed to sit for a second, needed some water, you're good. I went outside the door because I was still supposed to do my urine test, but then she realized that me and the other girl were both Air Force, and I guess we have to be able to pop our eardrums naturally, so she took us with a doctor. He put the little thing so he could see our ears, and she told us, cover your nose and blow. So we were, and our eardrums popped so he could see. We had to do that for both sides, and he was like, okay, you guys are all good. On a side note, I don't know if any of your guys' recruiters have told you this. My recruiters definitely told me, if you feel like you have any earwax or something, you don't want to get sent back to have to get your ears flushed. Do one of those kits that you can get at like Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, just so you're not delaying your process that much longer. It's like it's less than like $5, honestly. You just do a really quick test at home. Back to MEPS. After that, we sat outside, and mind you, I really have to go to the bathroom at this point. Like, not super bad, but I know I have to go. But she wasn't ready because there was another girl doing it, and I guess there's only, well, not I guess, but at the time they didn't have enough stalls. So they sent me to my hearing. Hearing is no joke, because like when we got in there, it's like this little room, it's like this little box, honestly, and they have the headphones on. You put it on and you hold the button, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna go one side, but no, it was strictly on my left side first. And I was like, clicked it, and I said, did I hear something? I don't know. Click, and then it went to my right, and I'm like, okay, click, and then like it went really silent, and I said, I don't know if I'm missing it, like if I'm just totally not hearing it. So I started clicking the button. 1, 2, 3, click. 1, 2, 3, click. But then she opened the door, and she goes, okay, you guys all passed. And I said, I didn't know, I just needed to be safe. Rather be safe than sorry. And so we went out there. Oh, and mind you, on your name tag they also do a little strip, and so you can color in what boxes you've already been to, like which station. Each station has a color, and so they know where to send you next. So my paper said I had a lot of 0s and 5s. I really don't know what those mean, but apparently it was good enough to pass. Walked out. The guys from the front desk told me to sit in the row for the vision test, and as I'm sitting there, the lady, I really don't remember her name, I don't think she really ever gave us her name, she was like, oh, I need you for the urine. And I said, oh, okay, thank you, finally, because the girl had to go pee. Like, I couldn't hold it anymore. Well, I could hold it, but I really didn't want to. So you go, and there's 2 stalls, and She makes you put your shirt all the way up and tuck it into your bra, and then you pull your pants all the way down, your underwear all the way down to your ankles, and she gives you the cup. She tells you where you need to fulfill it to. And so you go pee, and if you have any more, like if you have to finish peeing, you put the cup on the floor. You have to let her know. I don't know if it's for everybody, but she asked us to let her know when we were putting the cup on the floor to finish. And then you're not supposed to flush the toilet. Was the first thing I did. I flushed the toilet. I don't know why. It's not the worst case, but they just say because when they do the testing, any pee left over, they want you to flush it down the toilet again, and there's no point of flushing the toilet twice. That's what she said. So when you flush, you put the cup on the counter. The guy or girl, mine happened to be a guy, was running the test, and he put the little timer on, put a little pee down for the pregnancy test. He put a little paper in the pee, and they put my pee somewhere else, but I don't know what other test that was for. And the timer went off. I wasn't pregnant. My drug thing cleared, obviously. And then I finally got to wash my hands, which was nice. She sent me out, and I was supposed to go to Vision again, but then there was an open doctor for my first interview, and the guy was like, go see the doctor. So I go see the doctor, and he was like, oh, hi, Miss Carter. And I was like, hi, sir. He goes, so have you ever been suspended from school? And I was like, no, sir. Always I said no, sir, so I'm just gonna say no for the purpose of this video. I was like, no. Have you ever smoked marijuana or done any drugs to include marijuana? I said no, sir. He goes, have you ever been pregnant? No. Have you ever terminated a pregnancy? I said no. He asked if I have any law violations. I said no. And he was like, not even a ticket for being on the phone while driving? And I was like, no, sir. And he goes, wow, you lived kind of a boring life. I said, I know, sir. One thing my recruiters told me, he's not my recruiter, but he's in the same office as my recruiter, is yes means your exit statement. No means new opportunities. No new news. Simple. Worked out perfectly fine. One thing that did get me is he goes, have you ever had tuberculosis? I said no. Have you ever been treated for tuberculosis? I said no. He goes, have you ever been tested for tuberculosis? And I said yes. I mean, that's not a question that's on the paper. And he goes, well, why were you tested? And I was like, well, in order to go to school, it's one of your shots that you have to get. And he goes, are you sure? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, okay. But I was kind of like, my heart dropped a little bit. I said, did I just mess up? But other than that, after that, I finally went to take my vision test. The same girl who did my hearing test did my vision test. It started off with the color blindness test. I passed that. Then she showed me the little bar that what we would be looking for, the depth perception test. She goes, obviously you can see it here. She goes, but on the paper it's going to be a little different. She actually showed me the book before I looked on it in the computer. She goes, this is what you're going to be looking at. And I said, okay. So I put my head in the little thing, and I was like, she goes, okay, can you tell me which ones are different? So I was like, ma'am, honestly, they all look the same to me. She goes, give it 1 second for your eyes to stay in there. And I said, okay. And then I started to see which ones were popping out. She goes, take your time. And there was A through F. And later I found out the other girl who was with me, she was only shown 2 screens. The girl who did my testing, she did all of them. So she had me read, there's 5 circles in each line, and you have to say 2, 3, 4. Like, point out which ones are that you think are different. So I was actually getting them, and it was kind of weird. I had my glasses on, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. I get to the last one, and she goes, okay, tell me. And I'm like, I think it's 3, 3, and 4. She goes, no, no, no. She goes, look at it one more time. And I was like, 3, 4, 3. She goes, okay, there you go. And so she was really nice about it. I went over, I do wear glasses, like I said, so I had to take that, like, where you're in the machine and the little balloon. Oh, look, there's a hair. Where the little balloon adjusts. I think that takes the measurements of your eyes, but I'm not 100% positive. But I was able to do that, and then she asked me to read the lines through the machine and which ones were clearer, because like I said, I do wear corrective lenses. And I passed those, and then after that I finally was done with the blood, the urine analysis, the hearing, and vision. Those are the only 4 you had to do. So then it was finally time to go into the underwear Olympics portion, the physical portion of it. So it is the same girl who did the urine analysis. She was going to be our administrator for that and telling us what to do, how to do it, explaining it to us. So we went through. At first it was just her and the 6 other girls that I was with, me included, and she told us to get down to our bra and underwear. She broke down exactly what we were going to be doing. She took our height and weight. I am 64 inches, so I'm 5'4.5" actually, but that automatically rounds me up because they only go off whole numbers for the Air Force, I guess. It automatically makes me 5'5". So my weight and minimum weight go up a little bit. So I was cleared for that. I did my weight, cleared. Then we go back into the benches and she's like, I need someone to volunteer to go first when the doctor comes. And nobody would answer. Like, everyone was kind of like. And then she looks at me and she goes, Miss Carter, can you go? I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, I knew it was going to be you or her, talking about the other girl who was filling out for the Air Force. She goes, but I think you'll make a good example. And I said, okay, ma'am. So she calls the doctor in, and we're in our undergarments, and we start off with like arm circles. We do the little like and going back and forth a couple times. We have to make sure like we curl our toes up, we curl them inwards. They see you move your foot in like a, if you were smashing a can kind of. So if this was my heel, kind of like push down, and then you do the same thing but you push your foot backwards. And then I can make a whole video about all the exercises too, if that's something you guys want to see. Then we do the duck walk. Honestly, I was so afraid for the duck walk, but it really wasn't that bad. Just like my recruiter said, well, he's not, the other recruiter in the office said, he goes, if I'm 30 years old, y'all can do it too. So we get back there, and it's like you crouch down, like if you were a catcher. Oh, okay, sorry, my camera cut me off. But you like crouch down like if you were a catcher in baseball or softball, and she literally just had us take 3 steps forward. You needed to spin back around and take the 3 steps backward. She goes self-count. And while we're doing all these exercises, the doctor is kind of just going, walking back and forth and observing. There was one girl in our section who, when they wanted us to fall naturally on our knees, because what they're doing is they're making sure you have no metal parts in your knees, she kept forcing herself. They wanted us to naturally fall. So she had to redo that a couple times, but they were real like lenient with her. Like they were just having her do it over and over right then and there. We did a couple other stretches that I can't remember right off the top of my head. And then we went into, she was like, okay guys, the first time you go see the doctors, you're still in your undergarments, and you kind of just like lay your arms out like this, and your feet are like penguins, kind of, they're like webbed. And he's kind of just looking at your skin, making sure there's no like rashes, or you don't have any like really big scarring, like they're just double checking. That's when she will ask, if you had any piercings, can you please tell me how many and how and where they are. So I have 2 on each ear, so you have to make sure, you can't just say you have 2 ear piercings. You have to say I have 2 on my right, 2 on my left. I had 1 on my lip, and I had my belly button. That's what I had to tell her. She said everything you need to tell them that, because they're gonna see everything anyways, and it's not really that big of a deal. They just want to write it down as documentation. Just like I heard when you have tattoos, they take a picture of your tattoo. That's what someone told me. It's just documentation. And then they send you back out, and that's when you'll get into the gown with nothing on underneath. When you finally come back into the doctor's, he just kind of checks to see if you have any lumps in your armpits, on your boob, and then, well, he or she, I had a guy doctor obviously. And then what else did they do? Oh, they literally just lift up the sheet, they look, they put it back down. There's nothing goes in, like I know some people are like really scared about that. They kind of just lift up the sheet. He makes sure you have like no hernias or anything in your stomach. And that was it. So I finally got dressed, and then they called us all back like one by one, and he goes, okay, so you qualify and everything looks really good with the exception of your eyes. When he told me that, I was like, oh my god, am I getting disqualified? Like, I was like low-key freaking out, and my heart sunk to the bottom of my chest. And he goes, but we're gonna set up a consultation for you. He goes, it takes about 5 to 10 days to get that scheduled, and once it is scheduled, we will be notified, we will notify our liaison, and they will notify your recruiter. And so that pretty much ended my process right then and there. I was already done with all the medical part. I walked down to the liaison office. She told me the same thing. She goes, usually these are really easy. You just have to go to the consult, they just check your eyes, and you're fine. It's a more extensive eye exam than the one they give you there, and I'm used to them. Like, I've worn glasses for so long. So my day started like at 5:10, like from when I finally got to MEPS, and I was in my car again by 12 o'clock. So there was really not a lot of waiting around for me this time. Very fast process. They were processing the girls really fast, and I think it was just the fact that they wanted to get us all in a group together, and there was only 6 of us that had to do full medical right off the bat. So it was really easy, really nice. The girl even told us, she was like, you guys have been my easiest group for like the last couple weeks. She goes, last week I had a group that could not get anything together, not follow any directions. She goes, thank you guys for making it easy on me and following all my directions. So that was that second time at MEPS. My third time at MEPS, well, let's backtrack. My recruiter told me that he had somebody waiting for a consult since January 30th, and it was now February 11th. So hopefully it would get there soon and quickly. He texted me by the 14th. On Valentine's Day, he texted me and he was like, hey, MEPS was able to get your eyes and you're fine. It's a more extensive eye exam than the one they give you there, and I'm used to them. Like, I've worn glasses for so long. So my day started like at 5:10, like from when I finally got to MEPS, and I was in my car again by 12 o'clock. So there was really not a lot of waiting around for me this time. Very fast process. They were processing the girls really fast, and I think it was just the fact that they wanted to get us all in a group together, and there was only 6 of us that had to do full medical right off the bat. So it was really easy, really nice. The girl even told us, she was like, you guys have been my easiest group for like the last couple weeks. She goes, last week I had a group that could not get anything together, not follow any directions. She goes, thank you guys for making it easy on me and following all my directions. So that was that second time at MEPS. My third time at MEPS, well, let's backtrack. My recruiter told me that he had somebody waiting for a consult since January 30th, and it was now February 11th. So hopefully it would get there soon and quickly. He texted me by the 14th. On Valentine's Day, he texted me and he was like, hey, even told us, she was like, you guys have been my easiest group for like the last couple weeks. She goes, last week I had a group that could not get anything together, not follow any directions. She goes, thank you guys for making it easy on me and following all my directions. So that was that second time at MEPS. My third time at MEPS, well, let's backtrack. My recruiter told me that he had somebody waiting for a consult since January 30th, and it was now February 11th. So hopefully it would get there soon and quickly. He texted me by the 14th. On Valentine's Day, he texted me and he was like, hey, MEPS was able to get your appointment. So hotel on the 10th, MEPS. Well, let's backtrack. My recruiter told me that he had somebody waiting for a consult since January 30th, and it was now February 11th. So hopefully it would get there soon and quickly. He texted me by the 14th. On Valentine's Day, he texted like, hey, so MEPS was able to get your appointment. So you're going to be going to the hotel on the 24th, and you're going to be taking your consult on the 25th. Any questions? I didn't have any questions. I had to go pick up another 680 form from him, which is the request of examination. And then I went to the hotel again, did the whole check-in processing all over again. This time I had no roommate, so I did film what the hotel looks like. I'll put that in right now. following. I woke up a little earlier this time just to get everything done, so therefore I was down at the lobby at 4 o'clock in the morning. I did drive myself again to MEPS. It is easier for me. When I got there, it was funny, one of the same guys that was there for full med the same day I was, he was there too, so we started talking and we had the same recruiter. Didn't know that, same recruiter, so we started talking a little bit. When we finally get in the building, this time there was a lot of Navy people shipping out, like so many. So we had to wait for everybody to get processed first, and then the non-shippers went through MEPS. This time at MEPS, it was a lot of waiting, like a lot of waiting. I'm sure there's people who have waited a little bit longer, but from my experience personally, this is the longest I've waited. We went in, we sat in another briefing room. We had another brief from this older guy. He was super funny. He was making all these jokes, making us kind of feel comfortable, joking around with us. He was like, you don't need to be scared of me. He goes, I'm trying to get you guys in, not trying to kick you guys out. He goes, and this is my favorite group right here, the people who have to go to consults because you guys aren't giving up. He goes, you guys didn't get a no. You guys are still here fighting, trying to get in. And I appreciate that because I went through the same thing when I was trying to join 20 years ago. He goes, it took me a year to get in, and it took me 20 years and 23 days to get out. So kind of just stuck with us. So we're doing all this processing. We're done with his brief by like 6:30. Our shuttle bus driver just drive us to all our consultations. There was 10 of us that had to go for consults. He didn't show up until 7:15. And we would have been good to go, but there was 2 people in our groups that had to go for full inspects before, so we were kind of just waiting around, and it kind of broke down. Once we got into the shuttle, we had our phones because we needed to be able to call him. Excuse me. So we had our phones because we needed to be able to call him when to pick us up. So like I said, there was a whole bunch of us, so we went from whose appointments were first. My appointment wasn't until 10:30, and out of the 10 people, there was 3 of us going to the same location, and so we were the last people to get dropped off, I think. No, there was one other person, but for the majority part, we were the last people to get dropped off. We got dropped off at our eye exam place at 9 in the morning. They didn't open until 10, so we walked across the street to the Starbucks. And we were kind of just hanging out there. My appointment was until 10:30. Another person's was at 11. The other person's was at 11:30. And so we walked over to the Starbucks. We waited for them to open. We got there as soon as it opened. And they actually like took us really quickly. We did like some of the same tests we did. And then he dilated all of our eyes. And he took the little lights. He told me my eyes were in really good health. The one thing he did say is I have a really high stigmatism, which I already know about, and that's pretty much the reason why I got sent for a consult, because I do have a high stigmatism and it's not a low one. So he said I was perfectly fine. He was like, you see perfect with corrective lens. He goes, we get you to 20/20. Your current prescription is really healthy for your eyes. You see really good. And that was that. So we called our bus driver and he was like, all right, we'll be there. Like, we were the last people to get picked up, so I think he was driving from other locations picking everybody else up before us. Then we got back to MEPS, we checked back in, and I went to medical, checked back into medical, letting them know I was there, and they told me, okay, here's your folder, go talk to a doctor. Go sit in the hallway, wait for a doctor to call you. I said, okay. I went back in. I got the same doctor that told me I had a boring life. I go in and he goes, I remember you. I said, thanks. I didn't really say thanks, but I was like, oh yeah, I was here last time. I was like here like 2 weeks ago. And he's flipping through my folder like this, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're not saying anything. And he was like, okay, so you're gonna need a waiver. At that point in time, I was like, I looked at the bittersweet moment of it is my process is gonna be getting delayed, but at least I have to get a waiver rather than being disqualified, and that's the way I took it as. So right now, he told me it's gonna take about like a month and a half at least, he said. But he had really good hopes that I was gonna get approved. He said, he goes, you should get approved, no problem. He goes, you barely missed the mark. And I said, okay. He took my paper down, went to my liaison office, and he said the same thing. He goes, just be really patient. He goes, keep checking in with your recruiter and don't give up. Like, he goes, this is the waiting game, and he goes, and it sucks. He goes, but don't give up. He goes, it's gonna take like a month and a half, but you got this. So after that, I checked out and I drove home. So overall, that has been my MEPS experience. I've been doing this for, let's see, started talking November, so December, January, February. I'm like 3 months in. It feels like a long time. I know there's people who wait a lot longer than I do, so I'm grateful at the same time. I'm just really hoping that the waiver gets approved and I can finish the processing, because I still have to go through some other things that I didn't get to finish. Like, I finished all medical, and at the point, because my processes are going to be so far apart from each other, they said I'll probably have to do a full inspect just to make sure that everything is good. But yeah, if there's anybody who has any advice or has any questions, I've been talking to my recruiter a lot. I have a really good recruiter. He's very good at communicating with me back and forth. If anybody has any questions or want to know any more, leave them in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to ask. I'll leave all my social media in the description box, so that way you guys can keep in contact with me or ask me anything. This is kind of just my experience, and everything is my opinions. I will say, I think I had a better MEPS experience than some people, because there's some of my friends that have gone through the same MEPS as me, and they had like not so good of experience, or they had some negative things to say. But honestly, if you guys just listen to them, take direction, don't make them repeat themselves, you guys are perfectly fine.